Hey Internet, I'm Chaz.
And I'm Dan. Welcome to Wine is Serious Business, episode 97. For this week, we've got just a range of interesting whites. We were thinking about a Chardonnay show today, but some of these wines have been sitting around for a little while. We wanted to get them into a show. Not really a unifying theme, but just like some current release.
Well, one unifying thing, they're all Oregon.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, good point. Yeah. But yeah, some interesting white wines from the area. Ryan Reichert, I suppose this is right up your alley. Yeah, hopefully you enjoy what we get into. First wine on the list today is another wine from Matello. Wasn't really planning on doing them 2 shows in a row, but that's how it turned out. This is the 2009 Pinot Gris. I've been a big fan of his white wines. He does some great blends. Always excited to see what he's up to.
Does some great Pinots too. Does some great wine all around. So
yeah.
Let's drink it.
Yeah, so looking forward to trying this. Generally, as you know, Chaz and I, not the biggest Pinot Gris fans. We come across some that we like from time to time.
We need to do another wine Pinot Gris show. That was fun.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
These are all, boy, just above cellar temp. We've let them warm up just a little bit.
More aromatic now than it was before.
Yep,
we
definitely.
pulled it out right from cellar temp. It was pretty closed down.
We're probably 30 minutes open, something like that.
30 minutes open. Just took a taste off top and make sure none of them were corked.
And agreed, yeah, the aromatics have really popped since we first pulled this out.
On here, this is like green apple pie or something, but or like stewed apples.
Nice. I'm getting like pears too, right? A little bit of that softer fruit, a little bit more richness than a green apple provides.
It's true.
I'm getting like some cool, like just an edge of caramel and not like this heavy sweetness.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sort of
just like
lost with the notes.
Crisp, like a crisp run of caramel across the top.
Very true.
I like the mouthfeel. I'm getting some good minerality, a little bit of lemon flavors, and those pears that have like some good pear flavor to them, but it's just barely right. Like definitely some greenness on the pear still, a little bit firm on the mouth. Keeps things a little bit zippy.
Very zippy. The acidity here is big,
very
big, and just wraps the tongue up. Takes on a little bit of a hell ride, but in a very good way. I like the way that it, just completely crescendos across the tongue, like wraps it up completely up.
Really interesting contrast with the softness of the fruit and the way it leads into the palate. It kind of gives you this feeling that it's going to be rich, maybe a little on the flabby side. The acid rolls in like no way, not flabby at all.
No.
This is ripping, dries you out, makes the mouth water. That citrus acidity is sticking around. Boy,
sharp wine.
Another one.
Give
it a chance to breathe. Definitely, definitely more open, more complex now than right when we popped the cork.
Yeah, and I've had some heavily acidic Pinot Gris that don't sort of come at you with that much fruit. You get a lot more just acid than the fruit. The fruit is kind of plays second fiddle. This has enough time. The fruit has enough time to express itself before the acidity really comes in and cleans house. And I love the way it does it. Really kind of exciting. 88 points for me. I like it considerably.
One of the better Pinot Gris I've
I'm not a huge fan of.
A lot of times they're kind of disjointed, right?
Yeah.
And there's like this little spicy note that can kind of take away from the experience or leave you feeling a little bit rough. I know some people like a little more punch on their Pinot Gris. I don't. This has a really nice delicacy to it. And the big acidity, right? If you hate the acidity, this is going to be hard for you. But I think it keeps things clean. I think it keeps things exciting. I think it contrasts with the fruit really well. With a little lower, 87 plus. But as far as Pinot Gris go, this is up there for me.
Yeah,
this is
very
solid
yummy
stuff. Nice.
That's quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex, that's really nice.
Rinse before we get into wine number 2 here. This is
one of our favorites.
DePonte Cellars Melon de Bourgogne. Interesting grape, same thing that they use in Muscadet. DePonte's been doing this for quite some time. It's been getting a lot of good write-ups from it. Matt Kramer writes for The Spectator, writes for The Oregonian. Gives these guys a lot of credit for this wine. I totally agree, and I think it's been getting, we've been fans of their wine since 2005, 2006, something like that, the vintage.
Every time this wine is fantastic.
And it keeps getting better and better and better. I was just out at the winery last weekend. They say the same thing. They're just like, this might be our best vintage ever. They said the vines are getting more mature, more flavors coming out, and I totally agree. I've had good experiences with that stuff, so this is definitely a situation of, I'm kind of biased going into it, but it's something good that I want to share with you guys. So can see we got a little microphone down here. We haven't been using that much, but we know the sound's kind of bad with the equipment that we use, so I'm hoping that maybe this will help bring the quality up, especially when we do interviews. Some people don't talk as loud as we do when we get excited. Awesome. All kinds of stuff going on here. Got like some white floral notes, maybe like lilies, kind of not super pungent like lilacs, but just like full ripe floral notes, kind of like a citrus salad. I'm leaning towards like really ripe, delicious limes.
Really, really aromatic, and for me, I think of it's like almost like a punch that's got like big slices of oranges in it, like mangoes, pineapple.
Pineapple's dead on too,
you know,
and not like super syrupy pineapple, right? Not like the syrupy stuff in a can, like fresh cut.
Yeah, a really, really floral, fresh blend. You have to excuse me, I just took a nap. So
great nose.
Tasting some wine, yeah. Smells really good.
Great balance on the palate. Definitely another kind of heavy hitter as far as the acidity goes. I'm down with that. Keeps the palate clear from front to back. A little bit of evolution dries things out on the back end. But again, like these limes are perfectly ripe, right? There's just this little hint of sweetness, a little hint of richness, right? Like the hard citrus like that never gets overwhelmingly rich, but there's just a hint of it there. A little bit of pear flavors, a little bit of pear skin maybe on there.
Yeah, the pear flavors are sticking. They're coming out pretty heavily for me. The body here is a bit more substantial too, coming from the Pinot Gris. It's got a little more roundness on the palate, a little more there, and yeah, just very, very balanced in the way that it goes across the palate, and once it's swallowed, just really, really nice wine.
Good apple flavors, maybe even like the just perfectly ripe red apple flavors sitting on the back of the palate. Flavors last for a really long time here. The integration is fantastic, right? Like this is drinking so well right now.
Oddly enough, because of all the pineapple, the mango, the tropical stuff we're seeing on the nose, doesn't really come through a lot on the palate.
I'd agree.
Right? It's a lot of pear flavor, a lot of bright red apple flavor for me. Just a hint of like the pineapple and the orange I was getting before. But yeah, still really, really enjoyable. The nose, I think, is personally for myself, the nose is just explosive and delicious.
Killer summer wine, killer welcome wine. You're having people over to the house, right, getting warmed up for dinner. This would be a great way to start things out. I just love drinking it. They usually send out some cool recipes to go with it, and I keep thinking, right, like doing a seafood dish with this would be just a riot. I don't cook enough with my wine, so it hasn't happened yet, but I look forward to it.
So, yeah, balanced effort, complex on the nose and the palate. Really, really enjoyable. I like the roundness and the weight on the palate, 90 points for me.
Yep, same thing.
Pretty consecutive across vintages. I mean, this is always a winner, this wine. And for the price, right? Pretty killer, like under $20, right?
I think it might be up to 20 even or something like that, but still, man, I don't know what SRP is on it now. I'm struggling with that a bit. I know this was under 20, so definitely a good price on that. And this is a little more expensive, but the QPR is there. Really, even if you find it at 25. I'd say it delivers in spades. And if you haven't had it before, like it's a great expression of the Melon grape. And done out of the United States, that's something interesting that's going on. Cool stuff.
And done at one of the better AVAs in Oregon.
Dundee Hills.
Hell yeah. Alright, so the last wine we have is the 2009 Trisaetum Lasa. This is a Riesling dessert wine from Oregon. And got this through a series of samples. We got Trisaetum.
Thanks again, guys. Thanks.
Oh, that was...
big rinse.
Big rinse, yeah.
It's a dessert wine. It's low alcohol. That's no problem.
What is the alcohol on this? 9%.
Yeah.
So, definitely from the time we tasted it before, it's got a lot of sugar on it.
That's opened up too, man, even on the rinse.
Bam.
Here's another one. Don't pop and pour.
Yeah, so this was
You're robbing yourself.
57 degrees, I think, is what I had the little cellar thing set at, and it was pretty muted when we first poured it and took just a sample, but it wasn't corked, you know, it didn't have any problems, so stuck them outside, let them warm up a little bit. Man, this is already, you can tell just from the rinse. So
wow, yeah, crazy. Like, where'd this come from? It's like full on mandarin orange, right? Like I have them in salad sometime, and I really like that. Like this tastes like mandarin orange, maybe leaning towards a little bit out of the can here.
Yeah.
A little bit of sweetness.
A lot of sweetness coming through, yeah. But again, not syrupy, right? Like this is like there's a lightness to it, almost like a little bit of a floral note to the nose.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Oh man, the oranges are coming strong. Yeah,
really inviting.
Oh, it smells delicious. A little bit of peachiness too coming through.
Yeah, that peach really comes through on the palate too. Just round, thick yellow peach, like really juicy. Right, it's definitely got that dessert wine texture. It's a little heavier, a lot of richness. Mm-hmm. The acidity, I was just leaning towards, like, yeah, the acidity's on the lower side, but it's coming in later, and it's drying things out. It's not heavy. It's like nowhere near the department of these guys. Like, it's a whole other league, but there's enough where it cleans things up a bit.
You're not left with a whole bunch of sugar on the palate or anything, right? It's not like leftover or cloying is like some really heavily sugared dessert wines can be that don't have enough acidity. Like this is pretty balanced, like the acidity is enough to do all the work at the end and really leave your palate sort of refreshed. Man, but sort of straightforward with the flavors on the palate. I mean, I could see this in the future developing some complexity as it ages. Would probably be a pretty cool wine to age.
And it delivers a lot of what you're getting on the nose too. I think a lot of that carries straight through. And it lingers pretty nicely. And that's something I think when you get dessert wines of this style, a lot of times it will have that heavier feeling later, or it'll be, even more of that thick syrup across the palate. And this isn't the case, both in regard to the flavors retaining a little bit of grace to them. Like it's definitely on the heavier side, right? Like it's definitely still a dessert wine in texture and flavor, but it stays clean. The flavors retain kind of a sense of grace to them. And the city does a nice job kind of cleaning things up.
Dan pretty much nailed it. I really don't have anything more to add to that. So, other than a score, what would you score it?
Tough.
Yeah.
88 plus is what I go with on this. Solid flavors, well put together, enjoyable.
I love the richness. Sweetness is a really nice sweetness. It's not heavy or...
Another solid expression of Riesling. Yeah. It's kind of unique in my experience. This is really distinct, I think. Like the other dessert Rieslings that I'm familiar with from the area are from Brooks and Elk Cove.
Yeah.
And this doesn't taste like either one of them.
Would you say this reminds you of almost like a cheap D.R. Lucen Baron Auslese? Remember those those cheap little tiny bottles that you can get for like sometimes like $9 or $14 depending on. It's like a 187.
I know what you're talking about. I wouldn't go there, but are you feeling that?
Well, it's I wouldn't say it's a dead-on expression of that, right? But sort of in similar places as far as what I would look for if I'm looking for that. Like this is on par with those. I haven't had many great Baron Ausleses or Treckern Baron Ausleses that were all the ones I've had were old, not young. So, but the young ones I have had, this is getting on that level just a little bit, at least for me. So, anyway.
What is that score for you?
Another tough one. 88 points probably for me. 88 plus, firmly. I think it just needs more time in bottle. I think it would come around probably be a pretty interesting wine in like 5 to 10 years. These wines age fantastic, so you shouldn't be scared to ever age Riesling.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So
I'm gonna hijack this for question of the day again. We're gonna go without a question this week because I kind of got some horrible news over email and some stuff I was reading about. So we were doing New York Rieslings recently. Okay. I don't know if you remember the first show we did a bottle of wine from Red Newt.
Yeah.
Right. So they had a winery out there. Apparently, the winemaker and his wife were in a car accident, and his wife died in the car accident. Absolutely horrible news. I was reading about that and some emails I had with Dave. Super nice. One of those people that was really pursuing his passion. From what I've read, when I was looking into their website back when we did that, right? Like his wife started a bistro to go with it, did all the cooking, brought a lot of heart and soul to an up-and-coming wine region. This is just like tragic, horrible news. Such a bummer. And I wanted to share that, even people on the other side of the country, we were touched by the wine that they created, that I was impressed with the aesthetic that they presented and the energy that they put into, their winemaking and their business as a whole. Like they did some nice little videos that I saw too, where the energy was just great, right? People producing great wine from their heart. It's not pretentious. It's accessible and delicious, and you got a lot of respect for that. So just want to dedicate this episode to the memory of Deb Whiting. So
absolutely.
Thanks for all you contributed. See you next week.
Bye.